I'm going to give you 3 maps. And just kind of keep them in mind. I'll be making reference to them, so just take a look. This is Mount St. Helens before May 18, 1980, so before the eruption. Here was Mount St. Helens. Here's Goat Rock. You have the North Fork of the Tula River, South Fork Tula River, Coldwater Creek and Castle Creek, all emptying into the North Fork. Spirit Lake empties into the Tula River, and you have Meadow Lake, there's Bear Meadow. All of this is green, it's all in forest. Now, after the eruption, this is May 19, 1980, you have a large crater. Mount St. Helens has erupted. You have 2 canyons, Step Canyon and Lewitt Canyon. Look at all the destruction just in this map. This is all lack of trees. No trees. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Bear Mountain, Meadow Lake. Notice now that Coldwater Coldwater is now a lake. Same with Castle. It's a lake. There is no more of a stream or river. It's a lake. It's because all the debris came out and landed in Spirit Lake. It came up and landed up here. Spirit Lake rose about 200 to 250 feet in elevation. It added over 300 feet of volcanic ash and debris landed in Spirit Lake, and the lake rose up. So you'd have to dig down up to 300 feet to get down to the bottom of where Spirit Lake was the day before. That much material landed in this lake. The lake went from about 2 square miles up to about 4 square miles. It just about doubled in its size. And this is a real problem. This lake now has no outlet. And this is going to build and build till it makes its own outlet, which might be very uncomfortable for everyone else downstream somewhere around by the grapes. We're not done yet. That's my bobcat, Tonka, and she's now 10 years old. But okay, here we go again. Now, this is Mount St. Helens, 3rd map. Mount St. Helens after March 19, 1982. At that time, there was a huge amount of mud and lahar that was blown off of the mountain, and it dug out trenches, so to speak. It dug out canyons 100 feet deep, and it reconnected so that Coldwater Lake now has a connection into the new Tula River. Castle Lake, they built a drainage tunnel through Harry's Ridge for Spirit Lake to empty out into. And now we have a little bit of peace in the whole area. On March 20, 1980, there was a 5.2 Richter scale earthquake. And that was the first one underneath Mount St. Helens that gave a hint that this mountain was getting serious. 1 week later, March 27, my wife's birthday, I don't know what the connection is, but a vent opened up on Mount St. Helens. And this is 250 feet across. By March 29, we had a second vent open up, such that both of them on the same day coalesced into one big crater, basically staying the same until the eruption. Underneath this mountain, between about 4 and 8 miles, there is a 1 mile diameter cylinder, so to speak, of magma under horrendous pressure. And it can't go anyplace, but they know that it's down there. And that's causing the earthquakes. There were over 3,000 earthquakes from the 20th of March until eruption May 18 that were over 2.0. There were 371 that were over 4.0 on the Richter scale. This mountain really gave a lot of people warning that something was going to happen. This is one of the eruptions on March 30. Steam. 93 eruptions of steam in one day on March 30. It lets you know that it certainly can make steam and it can make ash. So we have ash, we've got some steam. So is this going to be an ash and steam explosion, or is the magma going to find its way up, and is this going to be a magma turning into lava type of explosion? They don't know yet. You are now looking to the east. This is Mount Adams, and here is Mount St. Helens. This area right in here is an interesting place. It's called Goat Rock. You notice, remember the map, it showed it right in front. Goat Rock, after the first quake on March 20, this area of the mountain facing north, and this is north up here, facing north, this area of the mountain started to bulge. It bulged between 4 and 5 feet a day. So that at the end, by May 18, it was a 450-foot bulge. This whole thing just bulging out. That gives you a good clue that something's going to happen there. What was occurring is that the magma is actually pushing from 4 miles or more underneath, is actually pushing the part of the crust right up against the mountain. And something is going to have to give. The mountain continued to spew out both ash and steam until May 18, 8:32 and 17 seconds, for those who really like to get it down. 8:32, 17 seconds, Keith and Dorothy Stoffel are geologists, and they have paid a pilot to take them up and take pictures. The pilot to this day states that it wasn't enough. Dorothy Stoffel says she is looking back, and she looks at the mountain and it starts to shake like jello. Okay? It just starts to shake. And she sees all of this start falling into the crater. All of this is snow. It's all parts of glacier falling into the crater. You've got cracks starting, and they're looking at this. Now, she takes another picture. All of this down here that you see is actually all of this. So this has already slid down. All the ice and glacial part is down here. What you see right up here is Goat Rock. 3.3 billion square yards of the largest known landslide in history. And it's coming right off the mountain. The entire hunk of mountain is just sliding right off. There are requests that the airplane fly faster. You can see part of the vertical stabilizer right here on the plane as the mountain erupts. Now, they were just, by the grace of God, saved. Had they been any closer, just the air impact on this thing would have tipped this thing right out of there. But I'm not sure even now. How many of you are pilots? Some pilots out here, you know what I mean. My wife and I are pilots, and I wouldn't want to be in this turbulence. It is not good. So, out it explodes. Now this mountain explodes into steam and ash. And it exploded with the strength of 20 million tons of TNT. And when it exploded, you had steam underneath. You had water in water form that exploded, and the water was 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit when it hit the outside. It expanded and it made that explosion. And some people, everybody can remember essentially where they were that day, except some of you that weren't quite here yet. I'd be concerned if you could remember. And so this entire mountain exploded with the fury of 20 million tons of TNT. it sent a plume into the air that was close to 12, 13 miles high. And it had an anvil stretched out that was 45 miles long. This mountain exploded, though, north. It did not explode up. It exploded out, and it exploded north. Here's the picture. It's coming this way. It's not going this way. It didn't point up that way. This slid off, and all of Goat Rock slid off. Now, Keith Ronholm was in Bear Meadow, and he was taking pictures because he's an enthusiast, and he wanted to get some pictures. And he was more than an enthusiast. He was a professional. And this was 10 seconds after the eruption, and Keith knew at that point in time that it was probably a bad time to be taking pictures. This is just 4 seconds later, so it's 14 seconds post eruption, and Keith takes his picture. You'll notice these streaks right in here. These streaks are hunks of glacial ice the size of a small house, half the size, some of them, of this church, picked up and thrown out in front of the volcano. Keith Ronholm continued to take pictures. I'm not sure why. He would sit there, and have you heard his tape? Any of you ever heard his tape? He has a live tape. You can go up to Johnson Ridge Observatory, and you can actually get the tape. And they play it for you if you don't want to buy the thing. But he's running, and you hear him going, oh no, oh no, like this. And then you hear this pause. This guy's crazy. See, I didn't want to call him crazy until you had that chance to share what I heard. This thing is coming at 200 miles an hour. It's a ground-hugging slurry of steam and ash. It has a wind component in front of it, initially at 650 mile an hour wind. As the wind pushes out, as the steam and ash comes crackling along, trees just all disappearing immediately. And this thing has a temperature of 650 degrees Fahrenheit. He wasn't prepared. 8 minutes later, he takes this picture. And this is what saved him. He was in not quite Bear Meadow. He was on the ridge of Bear Meadow. He went over the ridge, and as he ran, and fortunately he got just down enough on the ridge that when the slurry of ash and steam hit, it did a little lip, and it came back over again. And that's why he's alive and telling his story, is simply because of this. Now, there's a man who I mean to write to. To me, this would be a kind of a moment of time that would change my life. The mountain eventually, the volcano eventually erupted upward, but its main damage was out to the north. And this is what makes it such an absolutely perfect laboratory for study.